Today marks 1579 day of daily lessons, daily reflections, and today I want to reflect about one statement, and that is you can outgrow your current identity before your circumstances catch up. Such an important statement. But it means that you're able to really change who you are, but externally that didn't show up yet. And I think that is extremely important because we potentially could evolve internally, but our external world didn't change yet. And it is a tricky situation to be in because there is two options. There's only two options. You will execute to really so your identity could match your circumstances. That means you take action that leads to better external results, or you don't take action and you shrink back into the identity you used to have in the past. Because one thing is that circumstances and identity cannot be out of sync for a long, long time. And that's why I think that it's very, very dangerous to be in toxic environments because your identity says one thing, because toxic environment is putting you down, and at some point, you can start believing that this is where you're supposed to be. This is who you are. This is your skill sets. This is your emotional capacity. This is all the capacity that you have, even though that your identity says one thing, but your toxic environment and toxic situations is there. So I think that it's very, very important to understand that when you have the identity, we need to execute something to get out of that toxic environment, something to execute just to make sure that we're able to really reach our uh, external circumstances regarding our identity. And when I think about internal, so we can say that okay, like what have been better? So your mindset have improved, your awareness has sharpened, your self-respect increased. So like all those things that are actually important have been better. But now we look at okay, what do we do? What kind of actions do we take to make sure that we're able to get even the results better because of that? Because that gap is dangerous. As I said, there's two options: or we go up, or we go down. So yes, I share seven I think ideas or thoughts that we can potentially reflect on, just to make sure that we're able to understand this gap even more. So number one, internal growth means nothing without external proof. Again, this is a we already mentioned it, but I wanted really to emphasize that ec- eh, and growth, like self-awareness, mindset, self-respect. I always love the analogy with an egg. When there is an egg, you don't see what's happening inside. There's a chicken growing inside of the egg, and when it's finally comes out, then you see that there's a whole chicken. But before that, nobody is able to see what's happening inside. I think that's exactly what's happening with our identity, with our internal growth. But if we're growing, we still need to take action. We need to get out of that shell to really making sure that we're able to take actions necessary to change our circumstances. So that means that we need to skill, we need to sharpen our skills, we need to improve our standards just to make sure that our output could increase. Number two, the gap creates physiological tension, and tension demands resolution. And that's exactly what is discussed. That when we have that gap between where you are with your identity and where you are in actual life, that creates tension. That creates tension that potentially could be a good tension that can really see as a good opportunity to use this tension for the future to push you. Or we can look into that tension as anxiety, that nervousness that really puts us down. Again, sometimes we need to have a perspective about it that this is tension. I feel it. I feel it. This is a tension. I don't like my circumstances. I don't like where I am. Like there's a lot of things that doesn't go well. Where this is where I'm supposed to be based on my internal, and I think that's a dangerous place to be in because sometimes we can believe that we deserve and earn more than we actually have. And if we actually deserve, we will work for it rather than wait for it. Number three, your environment will try to pull you back down. This again, we discussed it. It's such an important topic to mention that your environment will try to pull you back. And even your friends, and then for most a lot of people say like you have changed, and that's again we need to say that wow, such a compliment. I know I wanted to change. I didn't like the version of me that was in the past. I know that it was comfortable for you, but I wanted to change. I wanted to improve, and now I'm serious because sometimes people wanted to try to change once, maybe twice, maybe three times for different reasons, and then they was bogged down by circumstances, and now they try again, and that's great thing that people try again because that's what we're supposed to do. And then some people said, "Oh, like you failed last three times. What do you think that what will make you succeed this time?" And I think that some people are very bad in discouraging people, and that's a terrible question to ask when a person is trying to achieve some big things. So, environment. I think that when we have a great identity and improved identity, and when we're pursuing big things and execute, sometimes I said this, it's very important to really sometimes reduce I try to reduce because sometimes we're not able to remove altogether, but trying to reduce as much as we can the impact of environment is essential. Number four, motivation is highest right after identity expansion and fades away fast. This is extremely important. I have seen it to myself. When you feel that you shifted, you got more awareness, you have more ideas, you have more understanding, more self-respect, more courage, more confidence, that moment gives a massive spike of dopamine. You feel that you're able to do whatever you want. But after a couple of days, you realize all that massive dopamine, all that massive high, now you don't have it anymore. And again, this is a moment of truth. The moment of truth. Are you will working to execute things and really match your new identity, new expansion, or you will remove out of discipline out of life because you don't feel like it anymore, and you fall back where you came from at the first time. Because we can potentially lift our identity and after that realize, wow, I need to work. I need to work. I need to discipline myself so I could really achieve external results based on this identity. And that's extremely important. And I really love regarding this that emotions starts it and discipline systems sustain it. Number five, self-respect grows through kept promises and not realizations. Such a good statement that I love. Self-respect grows through kept promises, not realizations. So when you realize something about yourself, about your identity, about your internal world, now it's great. It's awareness is great. But awareness without action, again, will not build self-respect. Self-respect is built by really showing actions. And I think that's one thing beautiful, an example as well, that when you realize that you maybe were disrespected in some way and you tolerated that, now that you realize that, that doesn't build a self-respect. What builds respect is creating non-negotiables and boundaries and standing for them. That's what builds respect because now I know that this is this is my boundary and I need to really honor it. And that's builds mass respect because if you said that this is my boundary, I honor it. There's the consequences of crossing my boundaries, and that builds self-respect. And again, when we think about realization, what kind of promise and action do they take regarding this realization? And that's a beautiful question to ask ourselves. Number six, if you don't close the gap, you will unconsciously sabotage yourself. And then again, I think that's such an important topic and such an important statement to not forget is that there is that gap. And we will not close the gap, we will sabotage ourselves. And it's extremely important to say, okay, like I want to really live this identity. And if I will not live this identity, that means I will start to skip workouts, procrastinate, waste time, and all those things that really pull us back and start to really generate evidence that we're not who we said or who we thought we are. And last one, number seven, is the only way forward is accelerate, uncomfortable action. Accelerate uncomfortable action. And I think that is beautiful thing when you think, okay, My internal world have changed. This is the most difficult thing to do. The most difficult thing to do is to change internal world, not external world. I truly believe that when the internal world actually shifts, and when you really start doing aggressive actions regarding that new identity, at that moment, things change. But now the most important part to understand as well, that uncomfortable action. When you change your identity, you will do something for the first time, because if you want to have what you never had, you need to do what you never did. And that means if you want to have the identity you never had, you need to do what you never did. That means that your new identity will require you to do the actions that might be extremely uncomfortable. But again, if your identity shifted, you always need to ask. We need to always ask, what actions did they change? Because if you say that I changed, my identity changed, but my actions didn't change, that means nothing really changed. There was no gap that needed to be filled. And that's the thing that's extremely important to understand, that sometimes we can say that we changed, but until our actions changed, we didn't change. So I hope that you reflect that, because I think that's extremely important, because it's necessary. It's necessary for us to grow, improve, change identity, transform, evolve, and based on that, take a little bit different actions. So I hope you choose something, and see you tomorrow.